Hey guys, welcome to Infinity. I'm the MashUp Man, and this is how I made the game glow for the 2018 Brackeys Game Jam. Now for those who don't know, a game jam is a competitive event where people can either get into teams or go solo and attempt to make a video game in a certain length of time. This can vary from 24 hours to 1 week or even 1 month. There's this YouTuber named Brackeys who makes videos on game development, and I've been following him a lot recently because I want to get into game development myself. And this year the community decided to host a 7-day game jam from the 25th of August to the 1st of September. And because I wasn't really doing much at this time except for game dev, I thought it would be a good idea. The theme for this game jam was announced at 8 AM on the 25th, and the theme was light. At first I thought, oh god, why light? I'm terrible with light. This theme is very vague. But the more I thought about it, the more I liked the theme. Yes, it's a vague theme, but that allowed me to be a bit more open to what I should make my game of. Also, I saw it as a great way to improve on my lighting skills because I cannot do light very well in Unity. The idea that sort of stuck in my head was a platformer, because that's mainly what I do, where you play this white blob and you light up the areas you move around it. The way this would work is that if you land on a platform, that platform would start to light up in the area that you're on. Day 1. So the first thing I did was draw and animate the player, which was a simple orb character who's literally a white blob with 2 dark lines for eyes. It's quite simple. I will admit that I made the animator in the game a lot more complicated than it needed to be, but it did pay off in that the player looked very smooth when moving around, and I got massive satisfaction from this. I also created a test scene and added a few platforms for the player to jump around on just to test the movement. Day 2. I wanted to make the character jump onto and move around the walls. I wanted to have a lot of freedom in the way it moves around the level, and this actually ended up a lot easier to execute than I thought because I've never done wall jumping before when programming, and it made the movement feel a lot more free. I also gave the character the ability to move up the wall as well as slide down it, but this felt like I was not being limited enough on the movement, because what I wanted was for the player to feel like they can move to most places but not find ways to cheat their way and find shortcuts. I wanted to limit themselves so that they do follow a certain path. So in the end, I made it so the player can only move down the wall and not up. At the moment there was no actual light in the game. This was something I had waited until I'd got all the movement settled down, and I've never really known how to use light, especially in 2D. So I thought the simple thing would be to make it in 3D while keeping the character 2D itself, and then use 3D lighting, which I sort of know how to do and I found it a lot easier. So I added a light to the player and it already started looking really good, but I also wanted the player to glow, and so to do this I had to use an asset called post-processing stack. I'm normally against using assets because I like to make everything from scratch, but it was provided by Unity themselves and allowed for the game jam, so I thought it would be best just to download it and use it. And when I did, it suddenly looked a lot nicer. I also added script to the camera to follow the player horizontally. I later changed this so it follows the player on both axes, so you're not limited to just the screen height of gameplay view. Day 3. When day 3 came around, I had made a texture for the ground, but I had a lot of trouble mapping it onto a cube without it stretching. So in the end I just went back to 2D and suddenly found a really easy way of applying light effect to sprites, which just made everything so much easier, and so I was able to make a really good looking start area. I went into a free program called Bosca Ciol, I don't really know how it's pronounced, no one does, and composed a quick melody and added the music to the game. I also made some questionable sound effects using my cheeks and Audacity and imported those into the game. It was starting to look and sound great. It also reminded myself a lot of a game called Hollow Knight, which I had recently been playing a lot and absolutely love, so you could say it's become an inspiration to me. Day 4. Day 4 was spent adding more atmosphere to the game. I grew grass for the ground, which I did not end up using in the end, but I also draw bushes and these light flowers that I liked the idea of and I thought it would work well for the game. Little did I know that actually this was going to be a main mechanic. At this time I decided to scrap my idea of lighting up the environment when you move around because it was something I've never really done before and it seemed a lot more complicated than just in my head. So instead I had this mechanic that you need to keep the player alive by keeping it lit up. I had these areas full of light that the player can recharge in, and then when out of these areas, the player would slowly run out of light until either they re-enter the area or they die. My game had flipped from an explorative platformer to a time travel platformer game, and props to my brother who came up with a suggestion of using these flowers as recharge points. Day 5. The last mechanic I needed to make in-game was the options menu. Now I've made a few options menus before, so this was quite easy and did not take long at all. I had an option to change the main volume, the music volume, the sound volume, change the aspect ratio, toggle the full screen, and change the quality. Then I needed to actually make content for the game rather than just the mechanics, so I made a rough map of the level layout. I wanted to keep it reasonably short and not too challenging. This took up a whole lot of time and it wasn't very interesting, so I didn't record any of it. Day 6. This day was mostly spent making more of the map, though I did come into a problem that often prevented the user from playing the game. On my computer the game works fine on the graphics ultra setting, but when put in low setting the character suddenly moves a lot slower. I had to change this somehow, so I decided to multiply all the player movement by time and not each frame. This didn't completely work, so I just decided to remove the option for the user to change the setting. I thought this would have been a permanent fix, but I'll get onto that. Again, this wasn't a very exciting day, so I didn't record anything. Day 7. The final day. This was mainly full of bug fixes and making the main menu. I made an about page to plug my channel. I felt pretty content with how it turned out, and so I decided to upload it. So that's the process of making my game. I really enjoyed this process because I never really make single games. I always tend to work on a game, imagining it to be quite big and not even get 10% of the way before giving up. So this time it was nice to produce a game that can actually call finished, to a certain degree. The only problem is that, as I was saying before, the player would move very slowly when on the lower setting, and this is because my laptop is not very good. The speed the player moves depends on how bad your computer is. So if it's not very quick, then the player moves as I wanted it to, but if you do have a better computer than me, which tends to be most people, then the player moves too slow to reach certain platforms and you cannot get very far at all in the game. I also noticed that people did not react to the controls as best as I did. I thought it was going to be quite intuitive for the player to understand the controls, but it turns out that people do not know how to wall jump in this game, which I can kind of see, and I didn't explain it very well in the game. I didn't explain any of the controls in the game, and I realised now, looking back on it, that's something I should have done. Now, because I feel like a lot of this game is sort of shut off for the people who can't get very far in it due to the computer problem, I thought I'd add a clip at the end of this video just to show you guys what the game is meant to be like. It will be me playing it. So thank you for watching this video. If you've liked it and want me to do more videos like this, then please like this video and subscribe. I am the MashUp Man, and I am signing out. Peace.